Niels Bohr. That's me. I lived from 1885 to 1962, and I am the atom guy. So, next slide. I came up with the Bohr model, which is the model that we use today with atoms, and I added the electrons kind of into the theory, sort of, and what the electrons do, they spin around the shell of the atom in quantas, and that's where you get the quantum physicist, because that's, well, that's what we do. But, I was the first to add the quantum theories of Max Planck, was a German physicist, to the well-known but flawed nuclear atom that was perfected by J.J. Rutherford, or I believe, yeah, Ernest Rutherford, something like that. And that's enough with the slideshow.
Great. You want to turn it off, or should we just leave it on while you speak?
Yeah, we can just leave it on.
Okay. Great.
Now I'd like you to think that this is the nucleus. Just bear with me. And made up of these are a bunch of protons and neutrons. Then inside them are the quarks, and inside them are the gluons. But outside are these things spinning around, which are the electrons, and they add the negative charge. Am I right? Am I right there, Charlie? And the protons add the positive charge, and that gets them in a perfect energy balance. And that's what he was famous for.
When and where were you born, and what was your childhood?
Excuse me?
When and where were you born, and what was your childhood?
Oh, I was born in Copenhagen, Denmark, in 1885, October 17th. My childhood was, it was different than most kids' childhood. My father was the professor of physiology at the University of Copenhagen. I was always surrounded by scientists and, theories and calculations and all things of that sort. And it was definitely interesting. I was basically made for science. So my childhood was very science-oriented. Any other questions? Yes, you? Isaac Newton? Oh. Daniel?
What was your occupation, and how did you get involved in science?
Well, that's a good question. Wait, what was it?
What was your occupation, and how did you get involved in science?
Well, I entered the University of Copenhagen when I was, in 1903, so do the math. And 3 years later there, I won the science award, so, I was basically gonna do science. I won it not for any of this kind of stuff, but for my works in water density, and I'm not sure on the basics, just because it was a long time ago. But yeah, I didn't really have an occupation besides just being a scientist, a researcher, a mathematician, just a guy with a big green chalkboard, basically. Yes. And any other questions? Pam?
For what are you most famous?
Well, I'm most famous for the Bohr model of the atom, which has the electrons that spin around, adding the negative charge, which makes them kind of equal with the energy. And so I really perfected the atom that we know today. Let's see. Yeah, I did a lot of other stuff. I worked on the Manhattan Project. I'm not really famous for this, but the Nazis invaded Denmark, since I was of a little bit of Jewish descent, you know, they would have been after me. But I escaped in a little boat, you know, a little ferry into Sweden. Then from Sweden, I was brought to the Manhattan Project and worked on that with Oppenheimer and Einstein. And well, Einstein wasn't really on Manhattan, but you know, I think he just kind of hung around. Let's see, but I knew how far the Germans were on when they were trying to get an atom bomb. So, you know, I came to the Manhattan Project, told Oppenheimer to hurry up, basically. So, yeah.
How were you treated when you made your scientific discoveries known?
Well, all my life I've basically just been showered with praise. You know, I've won all the awards that you need to win. I won some English Royal Scientific Awards. I won the Denmark Science Award, the University of Denmark Science Award, even the Nobel Prize. I won the Nobel Prize. Well, that's not supposed to happen. I've been wrong all the whole time about atoms. I'll work on that later, but okay. Yeah, I won the Nobel Prize. My son won the Nobel Prize.
Did his son win the Nobel Prize?
My son Age won the.
Did his son win the Nobel Prize?
I believe his son is an infant, but Shirley.
How is your work in science still important today?
Well, it's very important because the atom, you guys all know about the atom and how important it is. Basically makes up everything. Also, if I hadn't been there on the Manhattan Project and, you know, adding my insight, the Germans could have been the first people to get an atom bomb and they could have blown up America. So, I'm not saying that the only reason why you guys are here is me, but the only reason why you guys are here is me. My work in atoms have also like kind of laid down the groundworks for nuclear power. A lot of that. I'm not sure on the basics of how, but it did. And yeah. Well, not per se, but
yes.
Now my presentation is over.